What's up, everybody? Me again, and I have a pretty heavy video for you here. It's going to be called Trauma, and for me, it's been throughout my life, even before I was born, because when my mom was pregnant with me, it was on a base, an army base, and somebody got drunk and drove their car through a brick wall and ended in the foot of my mom's and dad's bed. And my mom was so terrified by this that she was too scared to testify, because I guess he was wasted. And so then I was 2 months, my mom went into labor 2 months early on Fort Benning, and they put her on a Apache helicopter, a Black Hawk helicopter, and took her to the hospital. And then, of course, there was a circumcision, and then while I was still living in Georgia, I fell off a seesaw and fractured both arms and had to wear a sling in both arms. And then I moved to Germany and experienced a lot there, growing up on Plattstraußen or the Abrams Center, Pentagon of Europe, the old Pentagon of Europe was its nickname, I guess. I don't know, Rothschild-owned territory, Army Hospital, I guess, in Frankfurt and in the Rock, and even with civilians at one point in Dusseldorf. And I can remember one of my first memories is me in the pretend kitchen area, kindergarten, and I had a good friend with a skull cap, and it had sequins and glitter on it. And I remember we were pretend stabbing each other with the plastic pretend kitchen area plasticware, and then we were taking turns shoving each other in the pretend oven and kicking the door shut and going crazy. We got banned from there for a little bit. I wandered off to the track. Nobody could find me for a while. I was just doing laps. I'm like 3 at this point. And then I lived there in West Germany for 5 years, I guess, but I think around the age of 4, I made friends with somebody. I was made to hold hands and, give her a kiss, your friends. But this boy's mom was different than my parents, and she apparently was teaching him all kinds of things, because he would then tell me to do things, and then I guess they found out that, I will say that I was led to his mom's apartment in the military section housing in Frankfurt, Germany, and when the door would open, there would just be like a wine cooler put to your face, and you would sip it, right? And then you'd wake up, and go about your way. But I think there was GHB in it or something. And I had repressed memories from in there. And I remember my dad handed me a beer at the table once when I'm like 4 or 5. And I took a sip, and so whatever, wine cooler, whatever. And then one day, my mom freaked out when he did that. And so that gave me the idea to pretend to sip the wine cooler. And so I remember a bit more this time because I'm not being knocked out, I guess, but all the windows were covered with blankets and there was lots of kids in there, some on the floor sleeping in front of a TV, and then there's a bathroom and then darkness beyond that. And at one point I remember standing naked with a bunch of other naked kids peeing in the toilet at the same time and thinking, wow, I didn't know girls could pee standing up. And every time I thought of that memory, I would dissociate it. Anytime I would be shamed about what I was doing with this kid's name was Chance. And his mom was Korean. And I got word from a service member in Ramstein that all the on-base hookers in the military in Germany at that time were Korean. And this was in the 80s and early 90s when the Satanic Panic was going on. And I do believe that I am a victim of whatever the Satanic Panic entailed and was basically termed in the media as a conspiracy theory. But I know that it was a disgusting Army colonel named Michael Aquino, who, if you look at what his involvement was at the Presidio in San Francisco, and what they were doing to those kids is, I believe was the blueprint for something that was carried out on all Army hospitals throughout the whole world. And I believe it's not just the Army doing things like this. I learned a lot from a man named Douglas Dietrich, who exposes that him and that whole thing. And ultimately, I think these are big-time weirdos who have cozied up with entities that, for whatever reason, they're big-time into making child porn. And I think the Satanism might be a way for them to throw off attention, because the FBI was ordered to not document anything to do with that because the Satanic Panic, and that lends to it being brushed under the rug. At one point I brought this up to my father, and he said the military police got involved, and I said something that pissed him off. I guess it was like, oh, so you and the military police got together? And he's like, I never said I got together with the military police. And he stormed off. And at one point, my mom said, I'm sorry, I couldn't protect you. I couldn't protect your innocence. And I think that they were drugging us and possibly doing some weird ritual in the back. I mean, look, Hannibal had to go through some weird ritual when he was 5. that's when I, figured it out, and then, I had, it can change your life, right? And had a lot of issues with shame and rage and dissociation. But I do believe that it was systemic and prevalent, like I said. All you gotta do is listen to Douglas Dietrich. He was the Colonel Michael Aquino's basically apprentice at the time. So anytime I've told family or friends this, they're very dismissive and say you can't remember anything or that didn't happen. But you can't sue the government, so it's all, I believe, mind control part. I think that whatever's in the air is influencing people to dismiss these kinds of things for, there be a less of a chance of it being exposed. Anytime I brought this up to a lawyer, it gets dismissed. I think my mom brought it up to the military police and said I have to call them. They want me to call them in Frankfurt. I don't, at one point, my mom set up a meeting with the police. I never went because I already had the sergeant of the Douglas County sit down with me and my father in my living room, Highlands Ranch, and asking me what he can do to help the situation. And I said, I pointed at my dad and I said, I want him to cut the crap and tell me what the hell was going on in that apartment in Germany. And as soon as I said that, he puts his hands on his knees, stands up, and starts walking to the door and says, well, Michael, if you haven't figured it out by now, I don't think you ever will. And he put his head on and left. So, if you watch my other videos, I'm talking about a cult that has our government hostage. I'm talking about an army that I was a part of, so to speak, where there was a colonel ordered to create a church for Satan or some shit. He was ordered to join Anton LaVey's Church of Satan, ordered to spy on him, take whatever information he needed, and to create his own satanic temple called the Temple of Set. This is real life, so it really disappoints me when people are dismissive of this and lawyers won't listen and cops, I believe there's a heavy element of the occult involved. I believe that ultimately prostitution is married to militaries throughout the world and used and proliferated. The CIA spent over $340 million to study prostitution in Peru. That's your tax dollars, okay? So, I don't know if any of you knew this, but, this conspiracy theories, this mind control, this child sex trafficking, sacrificing your children. The Pentagon was hit with a missile directly into a room full of their children's, from the daycare center, their children. That's what blew up a bunch of their own contractors' children. affects me and I am personally related to. So please, be considerate of the fact that these are issues very near and dear to my heart. I was taken to the towers before September 11th and saw them exploding over my head. Of course, it was my imagination, or was it? So, I can go into more details, but so that would bring up those 3 secrets I was talking about that were divulged to me by my uncle in Washington, D.C. on my 13th birthday, shortly before 9/11. He died recently, and I planted a tree in his memory and his grove, memorial grove. And in the comments, somebody said, "I really love what you did for us at the Pentagon on 9/11 while you were in senior executive service." So one of those secrets he told me was there's going to be an event. The other one, he said there's an agency more involved than the CIA. Obviously that's the NSA, or could be the Postal Service, but And then the other one was, we have the largest underground military bunkers in the world. Now, this man never really communicated to me my whole life, other than I was told over and over he can get me a full ride to the Air Force Academy. So, on the placard for the tree that I planted in his grove, it is saying, or supposed to say, "Follow the yellow brick road." Comment in the comments section if you know what that's a reference to. Yeah, obviously Wizard of Oz, but what is the Wizard of Oz a reference to? So, Father always got me a toy for Christmas or something nominal or novel, a magic set, a crystal ball, and a magic set for kids. Or, one Christmas I got a picture book for 9/11. I did a college speech about 9/11 in 2005 or something, 4, maybe even earlier. I've always said that it's a litmus test. If you can't see those towers were blown up with meticulous care to how they blew up, along with tower number 7 free falling into its own footprint. So I went to the site again before the memorial was built, but after it happened. And it's incredible because there was destruction all around this little church. The little church didn't get hit at all. Like magic. So, of course, it turned into a dedication to all those who died there, with all kinds of helmets and jackets from the firemen and
In
whatnot
1/4
everywhere.
mile, turn left on West Stewart Street, then
And
turn
then
right.
that's when the Patriot Act was ushered in, and that's when we went to wars. We killed a lot of civilians in and messed up Gilgamesh's, DNA.
Turn left on West Stewart Street, then
So
turn right.
it's a wonder we are stuck in some. It's like idiocracy, We got the boxing ring in front of the White House, and it's pretty pathetic because it's very embarrassing moments for our country. And so,
Turn right on Heritage Circle, then turn right.
yeah.